Market finals with the double intro. Smooth as always. HFR from the floor. Bobby Heff. Mistrade Matt Davio. Suspended still. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good.
I love the rub me hat going strong. I got the Manja cleavered Jim McMahon. Remember where these were all the rage, Matt, in the 70s? The visor.
Yeah.
The visor first came out in the 70s.
The visor, the whole point of wearing a hat for me is covering my.
Well, you didn't used to be. You used to have a fantastic head of hair.
Maybe at 21, then it started going bad from there.
Let me just tell you a little visor story, Matt. This was probably in the 60s because I was probably 5 or 6, and I'm screaming on my Schwinn banana seat bicycle down the sidewalk, Matt. And I have a gorgeous set of locks on top of my head. And my mom was not the one that, you know, even though it was the 60s and 70s, she was not very keen on really short hair. So got a lot of hair, and I'm wearing a visor, right? And that hair is just pluming out the top. Well, as I'm riding down the sidewalk, a crow notices it and says to itself, "Self, that's some fucking awesome nesting material." And the crow sweeps down, wait a second, lands on my head and starts pecking my hair out.
Yeah.
And I'm riding. The only way it goes off is I'm screaming and, like, you know, flailing. And then my front wheel hits the edge of the sidewalk and I do a complete, you know, ass over tea kettle, releasing the bird from my head. But never been a big fan of visors since then, but I'm working my way back to it.
Yeah, well, did you say visors? I think you said visors.
We're going to get to visors.
No, I thought you said you weren't a big fan of visors. I was like, what? But
we got some great nuance today.
No, but what's interesting about that is that, so if you ever walk the river trails here this time of year, it's not the same blackbird, but there's like these, what are they? Those red, they got those red wing blackbirds.
Yeah, but they're not the red. They're like the camp robber. I forget what they call them. Yeah.
Whatever they're called, they're the meanest birds, and they nest in those trees right along the river on the Deschutes. And like I was just walking Rudy the other day, and I'm like, oh shit, because what happens is those fuckers start attacking you. They just start dive bombing you because they think like they have in the nest in the tree. I'm like, dude, I'm just walking on the path.
Right, leave me alone.
Why are you doing the same thing? He's like, you know, it's one or two of them pinging me in the head. I'm like, Jesus.
Aggressive,
very aggressive. Fight or flight, and they're fighting.
Speaking of aggressive, Matt, Philippe Chittle or Flip Chittle.
Philippe Hilo.
Listen, I have a hard time not saying
It's Czech. It's not.
Well, he got checked. What happened to him? Upper body injury.
Big boys. It's a big boy game, and the 35-year-olds are going to win this one. I hate to say it. Good night, Rangers. The last 2 games have proven it. They're just too soft. They're too young. They're too soft. They don't have any gnarly, you know, 35.
They don't have any old.
They don't, and you need that. You need that in a 7-game series, and so they came out firing and won a couple at home. They've just been demolished in the last 2 games physically by, you know, the age and wisdom of the 2-time repeating Tampa Bay Lightning. It's going to be 3. They're going to beat Colorado too for the same reason. Although Colorado's resting now.
Right. After the sweep, after Canada.
Lee, don't live in the past. We're living in the future. Who cares? Carolina.
All right, Matt. Plus
you're in New Jersey, so vote for the
exit.
There's no Jersey.
Bright, you know, we're going to get to China US dollar pair.
Go Devils.
And then the yuan ruble pair. Now there's a nuance that nobody thought was coming down the pipeline. But before we do that, I just want to say again, with institutional inertia, like you think you can control things because you're this institution that's been around forever, right? And we've been talking recently about how sports replicates what's going on in society. Matt, the PGA now it's looking like it's going to crumble here.
It is. And, it's like the same thing eventually maybe I think the Saudis should go to the universities and say, we're going to have a playoff for the college football. They should just host the college football in Saudi and pay the schools all that money to come over and screw the NCAA. Why not? Why, thinking of it, like you said, the elites and the institutions that are crumbling, why wouldn't the Saudis do this model? Because of the money that they're going to make from the playoffs. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Who cares about golf?
All right, Matt. So let's talk currencies, and I'm going to bring up a chart if I can share.
No, you probably can't yet. I don't think I've gotten there.
Not yet. So before I share, Bryson today says that he's fully going to get paid with oil money. And again, let's not forget, it's all oil money.
Right. So should we as climate activists be boycotting PGA now?
Or boycotting all of these players that are going to play for oil money?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It's complicated.
Very good.
Matt, this is the dollar Chinese yuan chart, and it's been stable, fairly stable. I mean, it's 6 or 7 to the dollar pretty much forever. But we had all of these sanctions put on Russia, right? And then we saw what the ruble did. And so here's a little nuance too. And you could, if you're an FX trader at a reputable FX house, you can trade all of these pairs. But this is the yuan ruble. Now imagine that. Imagine that if you're gonna buy Russian oil and the Russians are gonna say that you need to transact in rubles, you don't need to go the dollar route. So the Chinese are exchanging yuan for rubles to buy Russian oil and Russian energy. It's pretty simple. In that pair has seen an incredible increase in demand for rubles. And look at the chart. The yuan is falling apart compared to the, it's for sure going the other way. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because you bring up, and you brought it up several times about sanctions and how you think you're going to effect, whichever was the right, what is that, an adverb? No. Effect.
Verb. That would be a verb, I think. Don't ask.
It's very complicated.
Don't ask me.
Not an English major.
I'm not an English major.
Math guy. You were talking about Marty Armstrong, talked about it again today, about the complexity of all of these things.
Well, and he was talking about the euro specifically, and that will lead into, our next discussion. But he was talking about how, 25 years ago when they decided to go to a single currency, that he told them it won't work unless you nationalize all the debt from each country. So, for example, Greece has more debt. Italy has more debt. Spain, the worst offenders are the most liberal, right? They're the ones that just print money like crazy and give it out to people that are, crossing their borders from Africa. They give them money. Here's come on in and have some more money. But the problem is the interest rates aren't going to be unified in that situation when you don't nationalize that debt, because Greece might have more than Spain and Spain might have more than Italy, et cetera. So then the reality becomes you do have different interest rates from different countries. And Charlie talked about that, from the global bank. But I think what's interesting is if you just focus in on some of the Europeans there, Bob, it's hard for me to see the numbers right here, but you got them in front of you.
Well, yeah, I mean, Switzerland, Denmark, and the whole Eurozone still negative rates and inflation like everywhere else on the planet. The thing that interested me in it was China and Brazil, the only two countries that, although we can be skeptical of their reporting on the inflation side of it, but the only two countries that are showing, a higher rate than their inflation rate, which is staggering.
Well, and it's an election year for Brazil, right? The matter of fact, I don't know if you saw this news yesterday, the old president who has been in jail for fraud, they just let him out. They said, okay, no more fraud. We'll cancel the fraud that you did. We'll let you out because we need somebody to run against this. He's basically Brazil's Trump, the guy that's in there now. They hate
Bolsonaro,
him.
Yes.
Yeah, so they hate him, even though he's doing the right things. And in Brazil, I don't know if you know this, but it's law. You have to vote. Like 80% of the, in the last, election there, 80% of the people voted. So you have to vote. It's like part of your,
Hey, Matt, that's interesting because it sounds
Yeah.
like it's a civil responsibility.
Yeah.
Like you have civil liberties, which is a great, just a great thing to have because
Your choice, right? Yeah.
well, no, actually, you don't have a choice. In fact, in a society, you shouldn't have a choice. And we are seeing that in real time. Let me share this. Because people are pushing back. Like, how can you have civil liberties? And the left and progressives are all about civil liberties without civil responsibilities. And now, historic San Francisco district attorney recalled. He didn't just lose an election, they recalled him. And I know that's a higher bar to get rid of somebody on a recall. I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But they're all sick of it. They're all sick of it. They voted to remove them because the reforms were too lenient and made the city less safe. Now, we talked about Lou Reed yesterday. I can't believe these two lines. It's right here. It was from the I think it's from the song Heroin, and these two lines did not make the final version. And it was it starts off with I know just where I'm going, and then it proceeds with people selling people pound by pound, and the politicians and the clowns and the do-gooders with their frowns. How appropriate is that? Like the whole COVID thing, if you don't think they sold people pound by pound for money, back to Pfizer, let's circle back to that. If you don't think that money drove all of these issues, you're a fool.
Yeah, well, and again, ivermectin been around for 60 years. Pharma doesn't make any money, even though it works. They don't make any money giving away 2-cent pills. So, and that's what those are. 2-cent. They're literally, ivermectin works, and it is made in thousands of, factories all over the world. There would have been no issue with it. So, absolutely, Bob. I mean, it's
And you shared a couple great Substacks. Please join the network, marketvitals.io, because it's critical thinking at its best.
Yeah, and Brett Weinstein and Neil Oliver. Weinstein had Neil Oliver on his podcast. I put the video in the. It's an hour and a half. It's worth watching. It's worth watching. I don't care, where you're from, what your stance is, for critical thinking alone. And they touch on this. And again, you have a molecular biologist, Brett Weinstein, and his wife, right? They're pretty. They kind of know what's going on with a lot of things scientifically more than you and I do. But the thing that he even brought up again there is just what you said. If they're forcing you to do this stuff, it's because they know it doesn't work. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to force you.
Kind of reminds me of city states that build walls supposedly to keep people out.
Yeah. So if you're critical, and then he goes on to say again, just to follow the money and the amount of money that was made by a small amount of people, and the fact that the CDC and the FDA were getting in the middle of your relationship between your doctor, who decides or not if he thinks or she thinks it is appropriate for you to try ivermectin, and then you go to the pharmacy. I had it happen to me, and they won't give it to me. They're like, well, why do you need this? I'm like, because I'm going to travel and malaria is an issue where I'm going. They're like,
Oh, wait a second. We heard from the overlords. That's not true.
Yeah. I mean, and that's crazy that they can step in the middle of that relationship. And that's what Weinstein brought up. And I was like, that's such a great point. Like, it's so effed up that your relationship and your doctor can't decide what to do to your health, right? That, like, to me, that should alert you. That should awaken you. That should, make you go, whoa, well, if they can do that with this, they can do that with, again, baby formula. They can do it with anything they want.
Matt, let's stick on this nuance because I voted for Trump twice, but this has always been, as a critical thinker, something that I've been about. And that was Trump gave us the vax with warp speed. He brags about the vax, pushes the vax, wants credit for the vax. Wait a second, let me finish it. Trump never talks about vax deaths. And I don't know this to be fact, but it says Trump's social media platform shuts down people who challenge the vax. Seems pretty brutal. And I love how Twitter will give me, this is my actual Twitter feed, because we're going to talk about the bottom ones too. Go ahead. We'll rebuttal on Trump.
No, not a rebuttal, but the other interesting thing is the emergency approval for the Pfizer drug is not the drug that they are now handing out. So there's a nuance here, right? Trump may have gotten it done in time, but what he approved is not actually what is being sold and given to people. People don't know this. They do not know this. So there is and I think this nuance is going to come to light at some point. What was emergency authorized is not, it's been a bait and switch, Bob. It is not what they're giving people today.
All right. I just wanted to, that's really not what I wanted to talk about.
Well, no, but that's exactly where we are, I think, is that most people don't know that the emergency use for whatever, what's the,
and again, you got to read the Substack, because it is so not a SARS virus. It's unbelievable.
Correct. And yeah, anyways.
All right, man, let's talk about one of your favorite subjects, smoking. Jade Marcus says, I am a non-smoker, but do smokers really cut back due to inflation, taxes, et cetera? Because CNBC International says, new for subscribers, Morgan Stanley downgrades tobacco company Altria as inflation cramps demand for cigarettes. And then Double Wide says, been many years and attitudes have changed regarding smoking, but first job out of college was a gas oil company with about 220 convenience store locations. If anything, demand picked up due to stress. I kind of can see that, as smoking, if you're a smoker, is pretty much a necessity. Nobody just cuts back on their smoking. Like, you either quit or you smoke and smoke more. Anyway, who cares what any of us think? Matt, bring up the Altria chart. We've talked about it before, but it's been a while.
Yeah, we have talked about it before, and it sold off on that news large today, 7%, just about down $3.50. Recently peaked at 57, and bullish still, but might be paying a fat dividend of 6.66%. Oh, 6.67. They didn't like that number. 6.67%. But the dividend is being paid here on the 15th. So I don't know. To me, I don't see inflation. I suppose I don't think our chart would go back that far, but we could go back to the 70s and see what happened then, I guess. But I doubt. I don't know if I can go back that far, Bob. I don't think this goes well. Here it is. But I mean, so what would we would look at, this period in here, what, 78 to 88, something like that, when we had the last inflation. I don't know. We really have to spend some time and go back into that, but that would be an interesting thing just to look at, right?
Aside from that, though, the chart looked like it wanted to be right-sided, but it's kicked. It's kicked again. Maybe more to Double Wide's thing that people under stress, they smoke more.
Well, I would think so. I mean, I think if you have anxiety and, that's why people get hooked on the nicotine, because it just settles them or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't settle me. It makes me want to puke, but.
I knew it did. Lee's saying that booze is not going to suffer. People are going to.
No, matter of fact, I think, but that doesn't matter. Ultimately, still your input costs go up, right? Everything is affected. So it doesn't, just because, your product costs more, your input factors cost more too. So it doesn't necessarily, like the only thing that's making more money under this environment is oil, right? Because it doesn't cost them more to take it out of the sand in Saudi Arabia. So good for them.
Yeah. Again, the nuance of it all. But make sure you get your electric car, because then you don't have to worry about looking at gas prices, except every other thing that is on your body, on your dashboard, is oil derivative. So
yeah,
with that thought process.
I mean, again, it's a bullish chart. Do I think it's going to go back to COVID lows? Well, I guess if that's.
What are we talking specifically?
Well, Philip Morris.
Philip Morris. Okay.
I mean, it may have topped here. It may have. I mean, we're under that. We're under the new high. We're under the old high. We've got downgrades. I don't know. To
I
me,
mean, for at least you're looking at it. It will fill out.
to me, I'd be a buyer if it pulled back to the low 40s.
Bingo.
You know, because of the dividend. But it's like, okay, I get a 7%, and the further it goes down, the more the dividend goes up. I mean, they're still making money. So again, we've talked about this before. I mean, when this thing comes down, you should buy it because, you know, this is a name that you get paid 7% a year just to hold it. Why would, I mean, that's pretty good.
In this environment, after we just looked at the rates worldwide.
Well, you double your money every 7 years if you're getting 7. So what the hell?
Bingo. All right, Matt, what else? What else you got? Anything?
We got a big sell-off since we started, so I'm grateful for that because I was selling 12.8 and now we're down to 12.666 as we speak. Seems to be a theme today, the 666.
Yes.
We just moved through it though, 12.653. We just dumped in the last 20 minutes a solid 130 points. That was nice. Let's talk a little bit about, I don't think Tampa Bay cannot lose. It's theirs to lose at this point. They got, they'll go every other game back and forth. They may even win it in 6 or 7. Tampa Bay, still my call. I don't think the Rangers have it. And then they'll have to play the youth of Colorado, and that will be a good series. Because it's kind of offensive versus defensive. Both these teams are pretty much kind of defensive, right? Tampa Bay and the Rangers. I mean, I think Tampa Bay probably had half the shots that the Rangers did, but guess what? The shots they took were important and made them. We got the U.S. Open next weekend. Don't forget, and that's going to be interesting with all the PGA,
especially the if any of these network, of course nobody's gonna ask about it. The networks are not gonna ask about it. They don't want
they don't want to bring.
They don't want a player of any stature to say, you know what, the PGA is it's lost touch.
Well, especially when they're getting, they got the contract with them. Why would they? Why would they? They're hurting. Like, where is this new league going to be played? By the way,
not only that, who's going to televise it?
Right.
Because I guarantee you, in the capitalist world that we live in, somebody's going to televise it. Somebody's going to get paid.
Right. Well, there's a reason why they are. That's the other thing. Is it ESPN that's picking up the CBS morsels? Somebody's going to benefit from this, and that's going on. Clearly, that's clearly going on. Anyways, rollover, I think, is affecting this market right now. We've talked about that a little bit. I think you have a Fed meeting next week again. Wednesday we have the rate meeting. So these are the things that I'm thinking about as we plod through rollover. I do think you have to think about that. So
hold on a second. Lee just asked who's going to win this LIV golf event. Let's see.
When is it?
That's what I want to see. I want to see when it is. Not only that, Matt, I want to see. It's amazing too. As I said to you yesterday, in the search machines, I was trying to see what PGA events have been held in Saudi Arabia, because they're trying to shame everybody. That unbelievably they bring up. I said this yesterday. Bring up the 9/11 thing. Like, all of a sudden, any relationship with Saudi Arabia has to do with 9/11. Where were you the past 20 years when you partnered with them?
Well, what about the goalies for the Rangers and Tampa Bay? They're both Russian. Shouldn't we be hating them right now?
All right. Here we go. There we go. So odds on, and let me share this. I found a little from our friends DraftKings, which we covered yesterday, man.
Mm-hmm.
Where the heck is it? There we go. That's the one. Opening odds for 2022 LIV Golf Invitational London. And Matt, it's not a giant field, so maybe you just bet the top 5. Dustin, Louis, Taylor Gooch, what a great golf name. Kevin Na, Sergio. I mean, they got a lot of stars here.
Yeah.
And the PGA is going to
a lot of European names, obviously.
And the PGA is in their bunker saying.
And why wouldn't Phil Mickelson at 51 or whatever? Why wouldn't he take 150 million? This is like hilarious for him. He's just like, okay. I mean, just happened to be born at the right time.
I'll play righty.
And honestly, why wouldn't Tiger? Why wouldn't Tiger take five?
And they said, Greg
400
Norman
million.
said that he turned down a jumbo.
And it's all silly money at this point to guys like him, but
Most of these guys, yeah.
Yeah.
So
and it, you know, his lawyers probably said you'll get sued in this, so it'll end up costing you 100. You really only make 100. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Anyway, there
That's
it is. There are the odds. Thank you, DraftKings Nation.
When is that tournament? When is that tournament?
Yada yada yada. You think that'll be the first thing?
Yeah, I don't
that
see
they
a
would
date.
tell you. You would think that.
I don't see a date.
Still no date.
Maybe they haven't even figured out where they're playing. This weekend, Lee says. Okay. So this is the weekend. They're doing this before.
Let me ask you this. It's in London, so we get to, if they play in the afternoon, it'll be our morning, right?
Yeah.
Bingo, bingo.
Where's it televised?
And here's the other thing too. Where is it televised, and what is the PGA event this weekend? It's like the no, that's one of the, I don't know. See what the actual ratings are. Like, talk about a big whoops with the PGA if this
Right.
thing draws better ratings than their event. Whoops.
They should. Well, so is DJ playing in the U.S. Open next week? Sergio in the U.S. Open next week? Are they allowing? Are they doing both? Or are they done now?
I don't know.
Because there's still plenty of non-sanctioned PGA events. I don't think the Masters is necessarily. I don't know. I don't know how. Again, the PGA is obviously the British Open probably is. I don't know. It's strange. And the British Open. So these guys are going to London, then flying back, and then going back to London in
A
July.
lot of jet lag on the tour.
Brutal.
A lot of jet lag.
Brutal.
All right, Matt, update 102.41 dollar index on its way to 105.
Well, you need to take out the high, so it's 105 and change. It's not just 105; it's the high. I'm not gonna.
Don't worry.
You said 107.
No, I did say 107. Then you.
I know, and then we said, but it's got to at least be the high.
No, it wasn't we said. It was you said.
Oh, you said, not me.
No, I said 107. You said it's not even going to be 105. I said I'll take that back.
Yeah, well, by the 105s, I mean the highs. So you got to tick the highs to win this bet.
Don't worry, it's going to 107 either way.
It is not. Not this month. Not this month.
I'm leaning more towards your side of the argument than my side of the argument right now, but that could change, as it always does in markets.
Mm-hmm. You got a lot of work to do to get through that profile.
Oh, it's the RBC Canadian Open. What a great one to go up against the communists in Canada.
Yeah,
you got to be triple jabbed and vaxxed just to get into the country.
Here's why you're not. I don't even think you'll get through 104. And I would give you.
Well, you're giving me 20 to 1, so
yeah, on a dollar, but I would give you 20 to 1 on $100 at 104.
I'm going to consult my physician and then get back to you on that. All right. What are the odds that the LIV outdraws the Canadian Open?
I wouldn't watch either of them.
Matt, the greatest shot in golf was actually in a Canadian Open by Tiger Woods. In my opinion, was the greatest shot I've ever seen. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Please visit us at marketmodels.io. Please share, retweet, restream.
I sent you an Instagram, a picture, the greatest hole-in-one ever seen from Fuzzy Zeller. Did you watch that?
No, but I read a hole-in-one story. Did you read this hole-in-one story?
No.
From this week. Kid, like a 13-year-old kid, right? Number 7, hits a hole-in-one, 6-iron, like 152, right? Hole-in-one. He keeps playing the ball, right? And puts it in the water on like 14. Guy behind him on 14 obviously goes in the water too and retrieves the kid's ball, right? Tees it up on 17, that par 3, and gets a hole in one.
Just a moment.
Wait a second, man. I'm telling a story here.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to click that.
The guy retrieves the hole-in-one ball on 17, gets a hole-in-one with the ball. The ball was used 2 times in 4 hours to get holes in one by different people on the same golf course. What are the odds of that?
By the way, did you know we had the final US Open qualifier here?
I did see that out of Pronghorn. Yeah.
Yeah, out of Pronghorn, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And it was pretty, it sounded pretty interesting.
You know, how come they don't advertise that? And could you have walked out there and watched?
I don't see why you wouldn't have been able to if you would have known about it.
Again,
I actually knew somebody playing in it, and he was staying with my brother-in-law, but I didn't know it was a US Open qualifier. So
nobody talks to each other anymore, man.
well, I heard it. Yeah, again.
Anyway.
Yeah. I wanted to show this hole in one if you've never seen it.
Sure. No, I've not seen it.
Because I had not seen it either. Fuzzy Zeller, we all know Fuzzy, right? US Open 2-time winner.
Yep.
2-time
Masters
I'm
champion.
going to go 173 yards, 16th hole. I wasn't making a whole lot happen on this day.
This is 2011, by the way.
Didn't go real good either.
Back left, it's hung up in the rough. That's
Right, yeah. Does it fall off the rough?
chip, I think. Yeah, it's no good. Oh, wait a minute.
7 seconds.
You're not gonna. You're not gonna. Chance. No. No.
Wrong. That is great. Attaboy, Fuzzy. Fuzzy got in trouble for asking Tiger after he won his first Masters whether they were going to have fried chicken and collard greens.
He did.
For the victory.
He was canceled.
He was canceled early. Early cancellation.
Good thing it was 2000, not 2022. He might have been
kill him
burned.
now.
He'd be burned in effigy now.
All right. 102.44 now, Matt. Dollar index inching its way. That's all we got. Thank you so much for watching.
Below 102.85 from last week, or no, from earlier yesterday. So it's down for the day.
Buckets, Matt. They get filled by raindrops.
It'd be a big move. You're gonna need a big move in 22 days. Good luck.
All right. As I said, visit Amazon.com, buy mushrooms and shrimp mojo rub from Manja TV. There we go. That's the show. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Double Wide.